Hey there! Get ready for a story that's gonna make your hair stand on end. I know it sounds cliche, but I swear, what happened to me in Cancun was out of this world. And the first thing that comes to mind when I think about those days is, do we really know the people who suddenly walk into our lives? Well, it was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. Me, Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke, my best friends since high school, had been planning this Cancun getaway for years. We talked about it at every get-together, every happy hour, dreaming of white sands, turquoise water, and colorful cocktails. Finally, the day arrived. We flew to Mexico with our energy levels through the roof, couldn't wait to feel the sun on our skin and forget about our routines. When we arrived, the hotel was exactly like the pictures, a paradise. Huge pools, palm trees swaying in the breeze, and the Caribbean Sea stretching as far as the eye could see. The first thing we did was drop our bags in the room, throw on our bikinis, and run to the beach. That smell of sunscreen mixed with salt and the warm breeze, it was everything we needed. We spent the entire first day swimming, laughing, taking pictures, and toasting to our friendship and freedom. That night, we went to a charming beachfront restaurant, ate fresh seafood, and danced until our feet hurt. It was perfection. On the second day, the vibe continued. We woke up late, had a delicious breakfast, and headed back to the beach. The sun was scorching, and we took turns between tanning and taking a refreshing dip. It was there, while I was lying on a lounge chair, that the story began to take an unexpected turn. I lifted my sunglasses, and there he was. Tall, with an easy smile and eyes that seemed to just pull you in. He was American, on vacation with some friends too. His name was Ethan. And, well, he was gorgeous. Like, breathtakingly gorgeous. He started chatting, super friendly, asking about the book, about Brazil. His voice was smooth, a charming American accent that made me smile. Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke quickly joined us, and we spent the entire afternoon talking and laughing. He was funny, smart, and seemed to have a special way of making everyone feel at ease. That night, he invited us to a beach bonfire, and of course, we accepted. We were in Cancun, after all. What could go wrong? The bonfire was magical. Bonfires on the sand, live music, people dancing. Ethan didn't leave my side. We danced, talked, and with every passing minute, I felt a stronger connection. He looked at me in a way that made me feel unique, special. At the end of the night, he walked me back to my room door. We said goodbye with a kiss that made my heart race. I was on cloud 9. It was the kind of vacation romance you see in movies, you know? It seemed too good to be true. And maybe it was. The next day, the third of our trip, I woke up feeling light, like I was floating. Ethan's kiss had been on my mind all night. He texted me early, asking me to join him for breakfast. My friends laughed and pushed me to go, saying I looked smitten. And maybe I was. We met at the hotel restaurant, and he was even more charming in the daylight. We talked about everything, our dreams, fears, what we wanted out of life. It felt like we had known each other for years. After breakfast, he suggested a boat trip to some nearby islands, with snorkeling and everything. The girls were all in, of course. It was one of those tourist excursions everyone does in Cancun, but with him, it felt like it would be special, and it was. The water was even clearer than we imagined, with colorful fish swimming around us. Ethan was a great swimmer and helped me feel safer in the water. He was attentive, fun, and always seemed to know the right thing to say. We laughed, exchanged glances, and I felt like I was living a fairy tale. In the afternoon, we returned to the hotel exhausted but happy. It was that night when the first crack in my fairy tale began to appear. We had planned to have dinner together. Again, but this time at a more sophisticated restaurant outside the hotel. I was getting ready, all excited, when Ethan called me. His voice was a little different, more monotonous, maybe? He said he was feeling a bit unwell, maybe it was the lunch, and that he preferred to stay in his room. I was a little disappointed, of course, but I understood. After all, it happens. My friends and I went to dinner alone. The night was fun. But I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. I sent a message asking if he was feeling better, and he took a while to reply. When he did, it was short, like yeah, feeling better. Good night. I found it strange. He, who was so expressive, was suddenly so dry. I tried not to make a big deal out of it. He must have been tired, or genuinely not feeling well. The next day, the fourth day of the trip, he showed up for breakfast as if nothing had happened. Smiling, charming, the Ethan I had met. I asked if he was better, and he said yes, it was just a passing discomfort. But there was one thing that caught my attention. As he spoke, I noticed he wasn't looking me in the eye like before. His eyes, which used to devour me, now darted away occasionally, as if searching for something, or avoiding something. It was subtle, but I noticed, and that wasn't all. During the day, we went jet skiing. He was excited, but at times, it seemed like he would just zone out. Like his mind was somewhere else. I'd say something, and he'd take a while to respond, or respond with something that didn't quite relate to what I'd said. It felt like he was distant. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe I was imagining things, that it was just the anxiety of a new romance. But the feeling that something was wrong began to settle in. And the question that started pounding in my head was, what is he hiding? That night, I couldn't get Ethan out of my head. Those darting eyes, the monotonous voice. On the phone, the way he seemed to zone out sometimes. I tried to talk to Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke about it, but they were so excited about the trip and the idea of me having found a vacation Prince Charming that they didn't pay much attention. They said I was overthinking, that it was normal to have ups and downs in a new relationship, and that maybe he was just a little tired. I wanted to believe them, but my gut told me otherwise. On the fifth day, Ethan suggested we visit the Mayan ruins of Tulum. It was something I really wanted to do, so I agreed immediately. The place was incredible, full of history and a different kind of energy. But even amidst so much beauty, Ethan's behavior continued to bother me. He was quieter than usual, and when I tried to strike up a conversation about the ruins, he'd respond vaguely, as if he wasn't paying attention. At one point, we were walking down a narrow path, and he suddenly stopped, staring into space with an empty expression on his face. I called his name, and it took him a few seconds to come back, as if he'd snapped out of a trance. He apologized. Said he was thinking about something, but didn't explain what. The strangest thing happened when we stopped for lunch at a local restaurant. I ordered a seafood dish, and he ordered something very simple, almost bland, and barely touched his food. I asked if he didn't like it, and he said he wasn't hungry. But what really freaked me out was when he picked up a glass of water and, instead of drinking it, just stared at the water, as if mesmerized, and then poured it on the ground for no apparent reason. I asked him why he did that, and he just shrugged. With a forced smile. My friends were sitting a bit further away, so they didn't see the scene. I felt a chill down my spine. That wasn't normal. That night, we went to a famous nightclub in Cancun. I wanted to have fun, to forget my worries. Ethan was there, but he wasn't dancing, nor was he talking much. He stayed more in the corner, observing. I tried to pull him onto the dance floor. But he refused, saying he wasn't in the mood. At one point, I went to the restroom, and when I came back, I saw Ethan talking to a group of people I had never seen before. They were in a darker corner of the club, and the conversation seemed serious. When he saw me, he quickly said goodbye to the group and came towards me, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I asked him who those people were, and he said they were some work acquaintances he'd run into by chance. But the way he said it, so quickly and evasively, made me doubt him. I started to feel uncomfortable. That feeling that something was wrong just kept growing. I wondered if he had a girlfriend, or maybe was married. But his behavior was so peculiar that it seemed to go beyond a simple romantic secret. It felt like there was something darker, something he was desperately trying to hide. And with every hour that passed, the question, "What is he hiding?" echoed louder in my mind, making me more and more apprehensive. After the club, I went back to the room with the girls, but I couldn't sleep properly. The image of Ethan talking to that strange group, the evasive way he answered, everything kept pounding in my head. I felt restless, like something bad was about to happen. The next day, the 6th of our trip, I was exhausted, but I decided not to let that ruin my last full day in Cancun. Ethan called me in the morning, as usual, and suggested we spend the day relaxing by the hotel pool. I thought it was a good idea. I needed some time to process everything and, who knows, try to understand what was going on with him. The girls went shopping, so it was just Ethan and me. At first, it seemed like things were back to normal. He was more talkative, more present. We talked about light things, laughed a little. But then, he started talking about his job. He said it was something complicated, that it involved international negotiations and that he traveled a lot. He didn't give many details, which was already strange, but what caught my attention was the way he described the people he worked with. He used terms like loyal, discreet, who know how to keep secrets. And his voice got more serious, almost cold, when he talked about it. At one point, he got up to grab a drink and left his phone on the lounge chair. I know, snooping through other people's phones is wrong. But my curiosity and apprehension were stronger than me. I picked up his phone, and the screen was open on a messaging app. It wasn't a common app, like WhatsApp. It looked more encrypted, with a different layout. And the name of the contact that was open was the boss. I couldn't read the whole message, but I saw a few scattered words that made my blood run cold. Operation, target, completed. And the most terrifying, no traces. My heart pounded. I dropped his phone as if it had caught fire. What was that? What kind of operation was this? And why no traces? My mind started creating the worst-case scenarios when Ethan came back. He picked up his phone and looked at me strangely. I tried to play it cool, pretending I was looking at the pool. He didn't say anything, but I felt like he noticed. From that moment on, the atmosphere between us completely changed. He became even more distant, and I, more scared. That night, we had planned a farewell dinner with the girls. Ethan said he would be a little late, that he had some things to sort out. I accepted, but inside, I was in a panic. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell my friends? Would they believe me? What if he was dangerous? The question, "What is he hiding?" was no longer a question, but a shout of warning in my head. I knew he was hiding something, and something very serious. I was a wreck. My head was spinning with the words I'd seen on Ethan's phone: operation, target, completed, no traces. What the hell did that mean? I tried to calm down, take deep breaths, but panic was starting to take over. I needed help, but who would believe me? My friends, who'd been calling me smitten for 2 days, would laugh in my face. And what if I was wrong? What if it was all a big coincidence, a misinterpretation on my part? But my gut screamed no.as. I got ready for dinner. Every sound in the hotel hallway made me jump. I looked at the door every 5 minutes, as if expecting Ethan to appear at any moment. My hands trembled as I tried to put on mascara. Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke were super excited, talking about what they'd order and which clubs they'd hit up. On our last night, I tried to act normal, but it was a colossal effort. "You okay, sweetie? You look a little pale," Ashley asked, looking at me with concern. "Yeah, just a bit tired from the sun," I lied, forcing a smile. I couldn't tell them. Not yet. I needed more proof, or at least, a plan. We arrived at the restaurant, which was beautiful, with a stunning view of the ocean. The girls chose a table on the balcony, and I tried to focus on the scenery, the breeze, anything but Ethan. But it was useless. Every time the door opened, my heart skipped a beat. He arrived about 15 minutes later. He walked into the restaurant with that charming smile of his, but I noticed his eyes were different. Colder, more calculating. He came to the table, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and greeted the girls. They were enchanted, as always. "Ethan, so glad you came. We missed our heartthrob," Chloe joked. He laughed, but the laughter didn't reach his eyes. During dinner, he was strangely quiet. The girls tried to make conversation, asking about his trip, his future plans, but he answered in monosyllables or quickly changed the subject. I tried to observe him discreetly, looking for any sign, anything that could give me a clue. And that's when I noticed something even more disturbing. He wasn't eating. He moved the food around on his plate, brought the fork to his mouth, but he didn't swallow. I watched him for a while, and he did this several times. It was as if he was pretending to eat. And when he ordered a drink, he just wet his lips, without actually drinking. My stomach churned. That wasn't normal. Nobody who was hungry or thirsty would act that way. He was trying hard to seem human, to seem normal, but he was failing miserably. With every passing minute, the certainty that something was very, very wrong with Ethan solidified in my mind. The question, "What is he hiding?" was no longer a doubt, but a terrifying confirmation. And the panic began to turn into a chilling fear. I needed to get out of there. I needed to get away from him. But how? Dinner dragged on, and every minute felt like an eternity. I tried to participate in the conversation, to laugh at the girls' jokes, but my mind was elsewhere, obsessed with Ethan's behavior. He was there, physically, but his presence was almost ghostly. His eyes, once so expressive, now seemed like a bottomless pit, devoid of emotion. And the fact that he wasn't eating bothered me even more. It was as if he didn't need to. At one point, Brooke, always the more observant one, commented, "Ethan, you're so quiet today. Did something happen?" He gave a forced smile, one of those that doesn't reach the eyes, and replied, "Just a little tired, the trip's been intense." Brooke seemed to accept the answer, but I knew it wasn't true. He wasn't tired, he was different. I needed a plan. I couldn't just run out screaming that my Prince Charming was a spy, or worse. No one would believe me. I needed something concrete. I started thinking of excuses to get away from him, to go back to the room and try to research him, those words I had seen on his phone. "Girls, I have a terrible headache," I said, putting my hand to my forehead. "I think the sun got to me today. I'm going to have to go back to the room." Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke looked at me with concern. "Do you want us to come with you?" Chloe asked. No need. You guys have fun. I just need some pain relievers and some rest. Ethan can walk me to the room, right?" I said, looking at him. Ethan looked at me for a second, and I swear I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, something I couldn't identify. But he smiled and said, "Of course, I'll walk you." Relief. At least I wouldn't be alone on the way to the room, and he wouldn't be suspicious of my sudden departure. We said goodbye to the girls and headed for the elevator. The walk was silent. The tension between us was almost palpable. I tried to think of something to say, but my mind was blank. When we reached my floor, I opened the room door and turned to him. "Thanks, Ethan. I'll see you tomorrow, before we head to the airport, right?" He didn't answer immediately. He just looked at me with those empty eyes, and for a second, I had the feeling he was going to say something terrible. My heart pounded in my chest. I was ready to run, to scream, to do anything to protect myself. But then, he just nodded. "Yeah. See you tomorrow." And he turned, walking away down the hallway. I closed the room door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. I was trembling. That interaction had been more terrifying than anything I could have imagined. I knew I was in danger. I knew Ethan wasn't who he said he was. And I needed to find out the truth before it was too late. The question, "What is he hiding?" was no longer a question, but an obsession. As soon as the room door closed, I rushed to my bag and grabbed my laptop. My hands were still trembling, but the need to find out the truth was stronger than the fear. I needed answers. I opened the browser and started typing. What would I search for? Operation, target, no traces. It sounded like something out of a spy movie, but the feeling of danger was too real to ignore. I started by searching for secret operations and intelligence agencies in the US, since Ethan was American. The information was vast and confusing, full of jargon and conspiracy theories. I felt lost in a sea of data, not knowing where to begin. Then, I remembered something he had said at dinner: international negotiations. And the people he was talking to at the club, whom he called work acquaintances. What if he wasn't a spy, but something even more sinister? What if he was involved in something illegal? I changed my search to international trafficking and criminal organizations. The images and news that appeared on the screen made my stomach churn. It was a dark and dangerous world, and the idea that Ethan could be part of something like that terrified me. I was so focused on the screen that I didn't even notice when Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke came back to the room. They walked in talking and laughing, and I quickly closed my laptop, as if I were hiding a treasure. "What are you doing in the dark, sweetie?" Chloe asked, turning on the light. "And why do you look so scared?" "Nothing, just researching some stuff for college," I lied, trying to sound casual. "And the scared look is because I'm sleepy." They didn't seem very convinced, but they didn't push it. They started packing for the next day, since our flight was early. I tried to join them, but my mind was miles away. I needed more information about Ethan. I decided that the only way to find out the truth was to try to talk to his friends. They were staying at the same hotel. I knew that. Maybe they could give me a clue, some information that would help me understand what was happening. It was risky, I knew, but I had no other option. Curiosity and fear drove me. Still that night, while the girls were asleep, I grabbed my phone and looked up Ethan's room number in the hotel's contact list. I wasn't going to call him, of course. I was going to call his friend's room. I didn't know any of their names, but I knew there were 3 of them. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I dialed the number and waited. With each ring, I felt the panic grow. What if they were as strange as he was? What if they knew everything and were accomplices? The question, what is he hiding, was no longer about him, but about all of them. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Each ring was a hammer in my head, amplifying the panic. I was about to hang up, thinking no one would answer, when I heard a click in a sleepy voice on the other end. It was a man, with a heavy American accent, who sounded like he'd just woken up. "Hello," he said, his voice hoarse. "Hi, sorry to bother you at this hour," I began, trying to sound as calm as possible, which was almost impossible with my heart pounding a mile a minute. "I'm your name, Ethan's friend. We met on the beach. I just wanted to know if Ethan's okay. He seemed a little off at dinner tonight." There was a silence on the other end of the line. A silence that lasted a few seconds, but to me it felt like an eternity. I could almost hear his brain processing the information, and with each passing second, the feeling that I had made a huge mistake only grew. "Ethan? He's fine, yeah," the voice replied, now a little more alert, but still with a tone of surprise. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, it's just that he didn't eat anything at dinner, and he was kind of quiet. I thought maybe he was sick or something," I said, trying to maintain the lie. "No, he's great. He has some strange quirks sometimes. It's just how he is," the man said, and I noticed a nervous tone in his voice. As if he was trying to convince me of something, or convince himself of something. "Oh, I see," I said, trying to fish for more information. "Have you guys been here on vacation long?" He told me he works with international negotiations, and he travels a lot. Another silence. This time, a little longer. And then, the man chuckled, a forced, humorless laugh. "Yeah, he travels a lot. Business, you know how it is." "And you've been friends for a long time?" I pressed, feeling like I was on the right track. "Yeah. 4 years. We've known each other since college," he replied, and I felt like he was lying. His voice was tense, and the way he said 4 years sounded rehearsed. "Oh, cool, Mark. Thanks for reassuring me. I was worried," I said, and before he could respond, I added, "Oh, just one more thing. Did you see him talking to some people at the club last night?" He said they were work acquaintances. This time, the silence was even heavier. I could feel the hesitation on the other end of the line. And then, Mark's voice turned serious, almost cold. "Look, your name, I think you're worrying too much. Ethan's a chill guy. He has his own stuff going on. Don't get involved where you don't belong." The phrase hit me like a punch to the gut. Don't get involved where you don't belong. That wasn't advice, it was a threat. I felt a chill run down my spine. He knew. He knew I was investigating. I hung up the phone quickly, my heart pounding uncontrollably. The question, "What is he hiding?" was no longer the issue. The new question that haunted me was, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret? I spent the rest of the night wide awake, staring at the ceiling, every shadow in the room looking like a monster. The phrase, "don't get involved where you don't belong," echoed in my head, Mark's voice sounding cold and threatening. I was terrified. This wasn't innocent curiosity anymore. I had stumbled upon something dangerous, and they knew it. The idea that Ethan, the charming guy who had made me feel on cloud nine, could be part of something so dark was almost impossible to process. But the signs were there, and now, the threat was clear. My friends were sound asleep, oblivious to the nightmare I was living. I wanted to wake them up, tell them everything, but what would I say? The guy I kissed is a criminal and his friends threatened me on the phone? They'd think I'd lost my mind. And if I told them, what if it put them in danger too? I was alone in the study as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in orange hues. I felt a little calmer, but the adrenaline still coursed through my veins. It was our last day in Cancun, and our flight home was in the late afternoon. I needed to act, and fast. I had to find out more, or at least, get away from Ethan once and for all. I decided the best strategy was to pretend nothing had happened. Act normal, as if the call with Mark had never occurred. I needed to be discreet, observe, and look for anything that could give me an advantage. At breakfast, Ethan showed up. He was impeccable, with that charming heartthrob smile that had captivated me on the first day. He came to our table, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and asked how I was. I forced a smile and said I was better, that my headache had gone away. He looked me in the eyes for a second, and I swear I saw a flicker of suspicion, or perhaps, a warning. During breakfast, he was more talkative than at dinner, trying to make up for his behavior the night before. He suggested we go to the beach one last time, to enjoy the sun before leaving. The girls agreed immediately. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. On the beach, I tried to keep my distance, but he wouldn't leave me alone. He stayed close, talking, laughing, as if trying to test me. I felt his eyes on me the whole time, even when he was talking to the girls. It was as if he was watching me, and that's when it happened. While he was distracted, talking to Ashley, I saw something. A small tattoo on his left wrist, which I had never noticed before. It was a strange, almost tribal symbol, shaped like a serpent coiled around a dagger. It was discreet, almost hidden under his shirt sleeve, but I saw it. And the most terrifying part, I was sure I had seen that symbol somewhere before. My heart pounded. I tried to remember where. In a book? In a movie? No, it was something more recent. And then, a flash. The images from my internet search about criminal organizations. I had seen that symbol on one of those pages. It was the emblem of a secret group, known for, well, for very, very bad things. I froze. The question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret, took on a new and terrifying meaning. I wasn't just in danger, I was in the middle of something much bigger and darker than I could have ever imagined. I felt the air leave my lungs. Ethan's words, the veiled threat to my friends, hit me like a lightning bolt. My whole body trembled, and I could barely breathe. He held my arm with a strength I didn't know he possessed, and his eyes, once so welcoming, were now cold and calculating. There were no longer any traces of the charming, fun Ethan I had known. Here stood a stranger, a predator. You don't want your friends to get hurt, do you? He repeated, his voice low, almost a whisper, but it echoed like a scream in my head. I tried to speak, but my voice wouldn't come out. I was in shock. He released my arm, and I stumbled backward, hitting the wall. What do you want? I managed to stammer, my voice weak. He took a step forward, and I recoiled. I want you to forget what you saw. Forget what you heard. Forget everything about me and what I do. You'll go back to your room, pack your things, and catch your flight home. And you won't tell anyone. Not your friends, not your family, not the police. Understand? With each word, he moved closer, and I smelled a metallic scent I couldn't identify. It was a strange, almost imperceptible smell, but it sent shivers down my spine. I looked at my phone, which was still in my hand, and he noticed. Give me your phone, he ordered, holding out his hand. I hesitated for a second, but the image of Ashley, Chloe, and Brooke, laughing on the beach, flashed through my mind. I couldn't risk their safety. I handed him the phone, and he took it. putting it in his pocket. Now, you'll go back to the beach, act normal, and say goodbye to your friends. And don't try anything. I'll be watching, he said, with a smile that was more of a grimace. I nodded, unable to say a word. He opened the bathroom door and pushed me out. I walked out, my legs wobbly, and he followed right behind. In the lobby, he gave me one last menacing look and then turned, heading towards the hotel exit. I dragged myself back to the beach. My friends were still there, laughing and talking. They looked at me curiously as I approached. You okay, sweetie? Took you a while. Ashley said. Yeah, I'm fine. The restroom was packed, I lied, forcing a smile. I sat down on the lounge chair, trying to appear normal, but inside, I was in pieces. I felt Ethan's eyes on me, even without seeing him. I knew he was nearby, watching me. The hours dragged on. Every laugh from my friends, every ray of sunshine, felt like cruel irony. I was living a nightmare, and no one knew. I just wanted time to pass, for the flight to arrive, for me to finally escape that place and that man. When it was time to go to the airport, I felt a mix of relief and panic. Relief to be leaving Cancun, panic because I didn't know what awaited me. I said goodbye to Ethan with a quick hug, trying not to show my terror. He looked me in the eyes, and I swear I saw a flicker of satisfaction. I in the car to the airport. I looked back every minute, expecting to see him. But he didn't appear. I tried to convince myself that I was safe, that it was all over. But the truth was, I knew it wasn't. The question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret, still haunted me. And I knew the answer could be much darker than I could ever imagine. The car to the airport seemed to move in slow motion, every traffic light, every turn, an eternity. I looked out the window, my heart pounding, expecting to see Ethan somewhere, watching me. The Cancun landscape, which once seemed like paradise, now had a dark aura, as if every palm tree and every ray of sunshine hid a threat. My friends chatted excitedly about their trip memories, about the photos they would post, and I just forced a smile, mumbling vague answers. The guilt of not being able to share my nightmare with them gnawed at me. At the airport, the crowd was both a relief and a torture. Relief because I could blend in, be just another person among so many. Torture because I felt he could be anywhere, in any face, watching me. With every flight announcement, every piece of luggage checked, I felt a desperate urgency to be inside the plane. We went through security, and I felt a chill when I realized my phone, which Ethan had taken, wasn't with me. It was a strange feeling of being disconnected, vulnerable. But, at the same time, it was a sign that I was one step closer to getting rid of him. Or so I hoped. Finally, boarding. The line seemed endless. I looked back every minute, expecting to see him. But he didn't appear. When I got on the plane and sat in my seat, I let out a sigh of relief. I was safe. I was going home. The flight was long and turbulent, but I barely noticed. My mind was in a whirlwind of thoughts. The image of Ethan, the serpent and dagger tattoo. The words operation, target, no traces, the threat to my friends. Everything merged into a vivid nightmare. I tried to convince myself that it was just a nightmare, that I was overreacting, that everything would go back to normal as soon as I got home. But a part of me knew it wouldn't. When the plane finally landed in Brazil, I felt immense relief. The familiar air, the people's accents, everything felt like an embrace. I hugged my friends, happy to be back, but the joy was overshadowed by fear. I got home, hugged my parents, told them about the trip, omitting, of course, the details about Ethan. I tried to act normal, but every sound on the street, every shadow at the window, made me jump. I felt watched, even inside my own house. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, the images of Cancun haunting me. I knew I couldn't just forget what had happened. I had to do something. But what? Tell the police? Who? What? If he found me? What if he did something to my friends? The question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret, was no longer just a question. It was a shadow that followed me, a constant threat that prevented me from living in peace. And worst of all, I had no idea how to get rid of it. The days that followed my return were a blur of insomnia and paranoia. I tried to resume my routine, go to college, hang out with the girls, but it was as if a dark cloud hung over me. Every car that passed on the street, every strange noise at night, made me jump. I felt watched, monitored, as if Ethan could appear at any moment, or worse, as if he was already here, somewhere, lurking in the shadows. My friends noticed my change. "You've been so quiet lately, sweetie," Brooke commented one day. "Still thinking about your Cancun prince?" I forced a smile and said I missed the trip, but that getting back to routine was always tough. I couldn't tell them. Ethan's threat, the way he used their safety against me, prevented me. I felt isolated, carrying a secret too heavy for one person. I tried, in every way, to forget Ethan. I blocked his number, though I knew he had my phone, avoided thinking about the tattoo, the words I saw. But it was useless. Curiosity and fear were an explosive combination. I needed to know more. I needed to understand what he was, what he did, so I could protect myself. So, on a night when insomnia consumed me, I decided it was time to go back to my research. I turned on my laptop, feeling a chill down my spine. This time, I'd be more careful. I wouldn't search for generic terms like criminal organizations. I'd focus on the symbol. The serpent coiled around the dagger. Typing the words "serpent dagger tattoo criminal symbol" into the search bar made me feel like a movie detective. The first images that appeared were of common tattoos, unrelated. But then, I refined the search, adding secret organization and USA. And that's when things started to get really scary. I found an online forum, one of those really obscure ones, where people discuss conspiracy theories in secret groups. And there it was. The symbol. In a topic about an organization called the Order of the Serpent. The name sent chills down my spine. The description was vague, but disturbing, a group operating in the shadows, involved in negotiations that went far beyond what the law allowed, with tentacles in various countries. They were known for being ruthless and for leaving no traces. No traces. Ethan's phone words echoed in my mind. I read every post, every comment, feeling the panic grow. There were reports of people who had gotten involved with them and disappeared. Of companies that mysteriously went bankrupt, of accidents that seemed to have been orchestrated. It was like I was reading a horror movie script, but with every line, reality hit me harder, and then, I saw a photo. An old, pixelated photo of a group of men. And among them, though the image was low resolution, I recognized Ethan. He was younger, but it was him. And on his wrist, clearly visible, was the serpent and dagger tattoo. My heart stopped. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't crazy. It was all real. Ethan was part of the Order of the Serpent. And I, unknowingly, had become a witness. I closed my laptop with a thud, feeling sweat drip down my forehead. I was in danger. My friends were in danger. The question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret, was no longer a matter of curiosity, but of survival. I knew he wouldn't leave me alone. And I needed a plan. A plan to get rid of him and to protect the people I loved. With the Swiss Army knife in hand and the pocket flashlight beside me, I felt like a pathetic version of an action movie hero, but the adrenaline propelled me forward. I needed to be quick and silent. The first step was Ashley's phone. I slowly got up, creeping across the room so as not to wake my friends. Ashley's suitcase was on the floor, near her bed. With trembling hands, I started searching. It took a few minutes, but finally, there it was. An old phone, with a cracked screen, but it seemed to work. A sigh of relief escaped my lips. I had a means of communication. Now, the next step, the message. I knew I couldn't just send a regular text message. Ethan was smart, and the Order of the Serpent seemed to have unlimited resources. I needed something believable, something that would make them think I was under control, that I had accepted my fate. And the best way to do that was to pretend I was in love. I sat on the bed, turned on Ashley's phone, and opened the messaging app. I looked for Ethan's contact. My heart pounded, and my hands were sweating. I was about to send a message to a criminal, pretending everything was fine. I started typing, carefully, each word chosen precisely. I had to sound convincing, but without overdoing it. Something he could believe, but that would also give me some leeway. Ethan, I don't know what happened to me last night. I think the travel fatigue just hit me hard. I was a bit paranoid, thinking about things that don't make sense. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I really enjoyed meeting you, and I hope we can see each other again. Call me when you can. Kisses. I read the message several times, trying to find flaws. It seemed good enough. It was a mixture of apology, vulnerability, and a hint of flirtation. Enough to make him think I had returned to normalcy. And most importantly, the part about thinking about things that don't make sense was my bait. It was meant to make him think I had dismissed my suspicions as a result of exhaustion. I took a deep breath and pressed send. The phone vibrated, confirming the message was sent. I felt a mix of relief and terror. The relief of having taken the first step in my plan, and the terror of knowing that now, he would be watching me even more closely. I knew the message wouldn't give me complete freedom, but it would buy me time. Time to think, to plan, to find a real way out. I couldn't just stand still, waiting for the worst to happen. I had to fight. And the fight would begin now. As I put Ashley's phone back in her suitcase, I felt a growing determination. I wouldn't be the victim anymore. I would be the hunter. And the question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret, would be answered, but not in the way he expected. I was ready to turn the tables. Ashley's phone, which I had used to send the message, vibrated in my hand. A notification. My heart pounded. It was a reply from Ethan. I opened the message with trembling fingers, feeling sweat trickle down my back. The message was short, understood. Glad you're feeling better. See you at breakfast. A mix of relief and panic washed over me. Relief because he had bought my deception. Panic because it meant he would still be around, watching me. The phrase "see you at breakfast" sounded like a sentence. I knew he would be testing me, monitoring me, to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. I put Ashley's phone back in her suitcase, trying to appear as normal as possible. The sun was already high, and my friends were starting to stir in bed. I needed to act quickly, before they woke up and noticed anything strange. My plan was simple, but risky. I needed an alibi to leave the hotel without raising suspicion. And the best way to do that was to pretend I was going to the pool. No one would suspect a tourist who wanted to enjoy the last rays of sun in Cancun. I grabbed my beach bag, put the Swiss Army knife and the pocket flashlight inside, just in case. I put on my bikini and a beach cover-up, trying to look relaxed. But inside, I was a whirlwind of nerves. When my friends woke up, I was already ready for the pool. "Good morning, sleepyheads," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm going for a swim before breakfast." You guys coming? Ashley yawned. I think I'll wait. For breakfast. I'm starving. Chloe and Brooke agreed. Okay, then I'll go ahead. We'll meet at the restaurant, I said, and left the room, feeling their eyes on my back. I went down to the pool area, but I didn't get in the water. Instead, I snuck through the hotel corridors, looking for an alternative exit. I knew there was a service door in the back, used by staff. It was my only chance to get out unseen. With every step, I felt my heart pounding harder. I looked around, expecting to see Ethan somewhere, watching me. But the corridor was empty. I reached the service door. It was locked. My heart sank, but then I remembered something I had seen in one of the forums about the Order of the Serpent. They were known for having contacts everywhere, including in hotels and airports. What if there was a way to open the door? I knelt down and examined the lock. It was an electronic lock with a numeric keypad. I didn't have the code. But then, I saw a small, almost imperceptible sticker stuck to the side of the door. It was the serpent and dagger symbol. My blood ran cold. They were everywhere. The hotel was a trap. But the sticker was also a clue. If they had a symbol there, maybe there was a code, a way to open the door. I tried a few random combinations, but nothing worked. Time was running out. I needed an idea, and fast. And that's when I remembered something Ethan had said on the first day, when we were getting to know each other. He had talked about a friend's birthday, which was a special number. I hadn't paid attention at the time, but now, that information could be my salvation. I typed the friend's birthday into the numeric keypad. A click. The door opened. I couldn't believe it. Adrenaline propelled me out of the hotel, onto the street. I was free. But for how long? The question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret? Still echoed in my mind, and I knew the answer was about to be revealed. We've reached the last page of your story, where the surprising ending will be revealed. Get ready for the twist. I ran. I ran without looking back, adrenaline pumping through my veins. The streets of Cancun, which were once vibrant and full of tourists, now seemed empty and menacing. I didn't know where to go, but I knew I needed to get away from the hotel, from that nightmare. I jumped into a taxi, barely able to stammer out the airport's name, and looked back, expecting to see Ethan running after me. But he didn't appear. At the airport, I blended into the crowd, feeling a temporary relief. I had made it. I had escaped. But the feeling that something was wrong still haunted me. I went through check-in, through security, and finally, sat in the boarding lounge, exhausted, but with my heart still pounding. I was about to catch my flight, to leave Cancun behind, to forget Ethan and the Order of the Serpent. I wanted to believe it was all over. But then, I saw it. On the boarding lounge screen, a local news report was being broadcast. And the image that appeared on the screen sent chills down my spine. It was a report about a mysterious fire at a luxury hotel in Cancun. The name of the hotel? The same one where I was staying. And the image that appeared next was of a body being pulled from the rubble. A charred, unrecognizable body. But on the wrist, even in the grainy image, I could see it. The tattoo. The serpent and the dagger. My world collapsed. It wasn't Ethan. It couldn't be. But the symbol. And then, the reporter's voice. Local police confirmed the body as that of Ethan Miller, an American tourist who was staying at the hotel. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, but authorities are not ruling out the possibility of an accident. Accident. The word echoed in my head, and I remembered the words I saw on Ethan's phone: no traces. He hadn't been a victim of an accident. He had been eliminated. By the order of the serpent itself, and then, the final shock. The news camera focused on a group of people who observed the scene of the fire. And among them, I saw them. Mark. Tom. Jake. Ethan's friends. They were there, watching, with empty expressions, as if they were watching a show. And Mark, the same one who threatened me on the phone, looked directly into my eyes, through the television screen. And he smiled. A cold, emotionless smile that made me understand everything. Ethan wasn't the villain. He was the victim. He was the target of the operation. And the secret he was hiding wasn't about him being a criminal, but about him being an experiment, a prototype, an asset of the Order of the Serpent. He was being used, and when he started showing defects, like the inability to eat, the trances, the failure to control me, he was discarded. And I, for having discovered the truth, became the next target to be monitored. The question, how far is he willing to go to keep his secret, was answered in a way I never could have imagined. He was willing to become anything, to be anyone, an almost lifeless being, to keep the Order of the Serpent operating. And his secret wasn't what he was hiding, but what he was. And now, my secret, my survival, depended on me never, ever revealing what I saw. Because the Order of the Serpent left no traces, and I was the only one who knew the truth. And they knew I knew. The announcement of my flight echoed in the boarding lounge. I stood up, feeling the weight of that crushing truth. I had escaped Cancun, but not the Order of the Serpent. I was alive, but my life would never be the same. And with every shadow, every unknown face, I knew they were there, watching me, waiting for the right moment. Because, in the end, do we really know the people who suddenly walk into our lives? The answer is no. And sometimes, it's better if we never find out.